The crystal spires of Vexthara Prime stretched toward the twin suns like frozen lightning, their surfaces reflecting the endless dance of starships that circled the galactic capital. For 3,000 years, these towers had housed the Galactic Council, and for 3,000 years, the same 47 species had gathered in the Great Chamber to decide the fate of countless worlds. Today would be different, though none of the assembled delegates suspected it yet. Commander Jake Sullivan adjusted his dress uniform one final time as the transport shuttle approached the docking platform. The dark blue fabric felt strange after months in the cramped quarters of the UES Defiance, but protocol demanded proper presentation. Behind him, Captain Lisa Monroe checked her sidearm for the third time, her fingers drumming against the holster with nervous energy. "Remember the briefing," Sullivan said without turning around. "We're here to negotiate, not to start a war." "Tell that to them," Monroe replied, nodding toward the viewport where alien security forces waited in formation. The Zephyrians floated in their energy cocoons, while the insectoid Cathalani clicked their mandibles in what might have been communication or threat display. The Orvani stood motionless, their metallic skin reflecting the artificial lighting of the docking bay. The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper, its human engineering crude but effective compared to the graceful bioships that dominated the hangar. Sullivan stepped onto the platform and felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes upon him. The gravity here was lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel like a small leap. He had trained for this moment, but nothing could have prepared him for the sheer alienness of the place. A Menthry guide approached, its crystalline form shifting colors as it moved. The translator device around Sullivan's neck crackled to life, with a voice like wind chimes. "Welcome to Vexthara Prime, humans. The Council awaits your presence." The journey through the spires took 20 minutes, traveling on platforms that flowed like liquid mercury through transparent tubes. Sullivan watched the city pass by, marveling at the impossible architecture that defied every law of physics. He understood. Gardens floated in mid-air, tended by beings of pure energy. Buildings grew like living things, their walls breathing with organic rhythms. "Show-offs," Monroe muttered under her breath. But Sullivan heard the awe in her voice despite her words. The council chamber was a sphere of perfect crystal suspended in the heart of the largest spire. 47 species sat in their environmental pods, each one adapted to their specific atmospheric and gravitational needs. The humans were given a simple platform near the bottom of the chamber, a position that Sullivan immediately recognized as deliberately insulting. High Arbiter Zixthal of the Menthry called the session to order with a sound like singing crystal. The translation came through clearly. "We gather today to address the petition of the species known as humans, who seek membership in our galactic community." Sullivan stepped forward, his boots clicking against the crystal floor. "Honored delegates, I come before you representing the United Earth government and the 4 billion humans who call our world home. We seek not just membership, but partnership in building a better future for all species." A ripple of what might have been laughter passed through the chamber. The Zephyrian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a force field, pulsed, with colors that the translator interpreted as amusement. "The humans speak of partnership, yet they have contributed nothing to galactic civilization. They have no advanced technology, no unique resources, no special abilities that would benefit the Council." The Cathalani representative, a creature that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider, clicked its mandibles rapidly. "Our analysis indicates that human space travel is primitive, their weapons are crude, and their social structure is chaotic. They fight among themselves constantly and show no signs of the harmony required for galactic citizenship." Sullivan felt his jaw tighten, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. "We may be new to space travel, but we have much to offer. Our industrial capacity, our adaptability, our determination to overcome any obstacle." "Your determination," interrupted the Orvani delegate, its metallic voice echoing through the chamber, "is precisely what concerns us. We have observed your species for decades through our monitoring stations. You are violent, aggressive, and unpredictable. These traits have no place in civilized galactic society. The debate continued for hours, with delegate after delegate rising to speak against human membership. They cited humanity's wars, its environmental destruction, its tendency toward conflict rather than cooperation. Each criticism hit like a physical blow, but Sullivan stood firm, defending his species with growing frustration. Finally, High Arbiter Zixtel called for silence. The great chamber fell quiet, and the Mentheri's crystalline form glowed with inner light. The Council has reached its decision. The humans have indeed arrived late to the galactic community. All suitable territories have been claimed, all resources allocated, all trade routes established. We offer the human species mining rights to 3 systems in the Outer Rim: Kepler 442, Volf 359, and Gliese 667. These systems contain no habitable worlds and minimal resources, but they will provide your species with the opportunity to prove your worth. Sullivan felt the blood drain from his face. 3 barren systems? That's not membership, that's exile. We represent 4 billion souls who deserve better than scraps from your table. You deserve what you have earned, the Zephyrian delegate pulsed with dismissive colors. Perhaps in a few centuries, if you prove capable of basic civilization, the Council might reconsider your status. The chamber erupted in sounds that needed no translation, approval, satisfaction, finality. Sullivan looked around at the assembled delegates, seeing not potential allies but obstacles to overcome. Monroe's hand moved instinctively toward her weapon, but Sullivan caught her wrist with a slight shake of his head. The Council's decision is final, Zixtel announced. Security will escort the human delegation to their transport. As the floating security drones surrounded them, Sullivan transmitted a single coded message to the Defiance. They've underestimated us before we've even begun. The journey back to the docking platform passed in humiliated silence, but Sullivan's mind raced with possibilities. The Council had made their first mistake. They had shown their hand too early, revealed their contempt too clearly. They thought humanity would accept their scraps gratefully and disappear into the galactic background. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The emergency session began at dawn in the underground council chamber beneath New Geneva. President Alex Carter stood at the head of the curved table, his face grim as he reviewed the transmission from Commander Sullivan. The holographic display showed the Galactic Council's offer in stark detail: 3 barren systems in the Outer Rim, take it or leave it. They're treating us like children, General Frank Hayes said, his weathered hands gripping the edge of the table. 4 billion people reduced to mining rights in empty space. Dr. Susan Blake, head of the Xenobiology Institute, pulled up her analysis on the central display. The species profiles are revealing. Most of these aliens evolved in low gravity environments with abundant resources. They've never had to fight for survival the way we have. Competition is foreign to them. That's their weakness, Admiral Rickstone interjected. They think in terms of cooperation and negotiation because they've never faced true scarcity. We've been at war with each other for thousands of years. We know how to fight when we need to. Carter walked around the table, studying the faces of his advisors. Each one represented a different aspect of human civilization: military, scientific, industrial, diplomatic. Today, they would decide humanity's future with a single vote. "Show me the military assessment," Carter said. General Hayes activated his display, and the chamber filled with technical specifications. "Our weapons are primitive by their standards, but they're effective. While they rely on energy shields and plasma weapons, we still use kinetic projectiles. A bullet doesn't care about your fancy force field if it's moving fast enough." "Their ships are beautiful," Admiral Stone added, "but they're not built for war. They're built for show, for comfort, for efficiency. Our ships are ugly, cramped, and tough. We built them expecting to get hit." Dr. Blake nodded in agreement. "The psychological profiles are even more telling. These species have been at peace for centuries. They've forgotten what real conflict looks like. They negotiate because they can't imagine any other option." "What about their technology?" Carter asked. Advanced but specialized, Blake replied. They've spent millennia perfecting energy manipulation, biological engineering, and quantum mechanics, but they've neglected the basics. They have faster-than-light travel, but their hulls are made of grown crystal that shatters under kinetic impact. The discussion continued for hours, but Carter could see the consensus forming. Humanity had been dismissed as primitive and violent, but those same qualities might be exactly what they needed. The galaxy had grown soft during its long peace, comfortable in its established order. There's something else, Dr. Blake said quietly. The surveys showed dozens of systems marked as uninhabited, but our long-range sensors detect signs of primitive civilization species that haven't developed space travel yet. Protected species, General Hayes said with understanding. The Council ignores them completely, which means they're potential allies, Admiral Stone added. Species that might welcome contact with someone who actually acknowledges their existence. Carter made his decision. We're not accepting their offer. If they won't make room for us, willingly, we'll make room for ourselves. General Hayes, I want full military production authorized immediately. Admiral Stone, you're in command of the colonial fleet. How many ships? Stone asked. All of them, Carter replied. Every colony ship we have, every transport, every escort vessel. We're going to settle every habitable system we can reach, and we're going to do it fast. The room erupted in urgent discussion, but Carter held up his hand for silence. The Council thinks we're barbarians who can't organize anything larger than a tribal war. They're about to learn that barbarians who can build starships are something else entirely. Dr. Blake pulled up star charts showing the systems near human space. If we move quickly, we can establish colonies in 50 systems before the Council realizes what's happening. By then, we'll be too established to remove easily. What about the other species? Someone asked. Won't they try to stop us? General Hayes smiled grimly. Let them try. We've been preparing for interstellar war since we first looked up at the stars. They've been preparing for diplomatic receptions and trade negotiations. Admiral Stone stood up, his uniform crisp despite the long session. I'll need colonists who can fight as well as build. This won't be a peaceful expansion. Every human knows how to fight, Carter said. It's what we do best. The plans took shape quickly. 50 colony ships would launch within the month, each carrying 10,000 settlers and enough military hardware to establish a fortified beachhead. The ships would target systems the Council had marked as uninhabited but which showed signs of primitive life. We're not conquering, Carter emphasized. We're offering partnership to species the Council has ignored for centuries. We'll give them a choice the Council never did. The meeting ended with assignments distributed and timelines established. As the advisors filed out, Carter stood alone in the chamber, staring at the star charts. The Council had made their first mistake by underestimating humanity's response to insult. They were about to make their second mistake by assuming humans would stay where they were put. Admiral Stone paused at the door. Mr. President, what if the Council tries to stop us militarily? Carter turned away from the display, his expression cold. Then they'll discover that the species they dismissed as primitive barbarians built their ships to win wars, not beauty contests. The launch preparations began immediately. In shipyards across the solar system, colony vessels received upgrades that would have horrified the peaceful Council. Defensive shields were strengthened, weapon systems installed, and cargo holds filled with equipment for rapid fortification. The Terra Nova, flagship of the colonial fleet, received the most extensive modifications. Captain Danny Rodriguez would command not just a colony ship, but a mobile fortress capable of establishing human presence anywhere in the galaxy. 3 weeks later, the colonial fleet departed Earth in the largest human expedition in history. 50 ships carrying 500,000 colonists, heading for systems the Council had written off as worthless. The galaxy was about to learn that one species worthless rock was another species' new home. The Terra Nova dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, its sensors immediately scanning for signs of life. Captain Danny Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching the data streams flow across the main display. According to the Galactic Council's records, this system was uninhabited and worthless, perfect for human colonization. "Captain, we're detecting artificial structures on the third planet," reported Lieutenant Beth Murphy from the sensor station. "Looks like settlements and some kind of industrial activity." Rodriguez frowned. The Council had been very clear about the system's empty status. "Show me." The main screen shifted to display the planet's surface. Scattered across the continents were clusters of simple buildings, agricultural fields, and what looked like mining operations. The settlements were primitive but clearly inhabited. "Life signs?" Rodriguez asked. "Definitely sentient," Murphy replied. "Bipedal, roughly human-sized. Technology level appears to be pre-industrial, maybe early steam age." "So much for uninhabited," Rodriguez muttered. He opened a channel to the colony leaders. "This is the captain. We've got a complication. The planet's got natives." The response was immediate and predictable. Some colonists wanted to find another system, others suggested establishing contact, and a few hardliners proposed ignoring the natives entirely. Rodriguez cut off the debate with a sharp gesture. "We're going to do this right," he announced. "Prepare a first contact team, full diplomatic protocols." The shuttle bay buzzed with activity as the contact team prepared for the surface mission. Chief Engineer Beth Murphy had volunteered to lead the team, her background in xenobiology making her the closest thing to an expert they had. The translation computers had been loaded with every linguistic algorithm the colony ship carried. "Remember," Rodriguez told the team before they departed, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to build something better than what the Council offered." The shuttle landed in a clearing near the largest settlement, its engines stirring up clouds of dust and debris. The natives had gathered at a safe distance, their curiosity overcoming their fear. They were indeed bipedal, with elongated limbs and large eyes adapted for the system's dim star. Their clothing was simple but practical, and they carried tools that suggested basic metallurgy. Murphy stepped out of the shuttle with her hands raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The translation computer hung around her neck, its speakers crackling with static as it tried to interpret the alien language. The natives approached slowly, their leader distinguished by more elaborate clothing and what appeared to be ceremonial markings, stepping forward to meet the humans. He spoke in a series of clicks and whistles that the computer struggled to process. "Greetings, sky people, we do, world," the translation finally managed, the words choppy but understandable. "We greet you in peace," Murphy replied, speaking slowly to give the computer time to translate. "We are humans, and we come seeking friendship." The native leader's large eyes widened in surprise. "You friendship? Sky people dev before." Murphy felt a chill run down her spine. "There have been other sky people?" "Yes," the leader replied, his translated words heavy with resignation. "Shiny -ones tem take stones ground we invisible them." The pieces fell into place in Murphy's mind. The Galactic Council had marked this system as uninhabited because they chose not to see the natives. The shiny ones were probably Zephyrians, harvesting resources while completely ignoring the indigenous population. "We are different," Murphy said firmly. "We see you. We respect you. We want to know what you want." The native leader was quiet for a long moment, then spoke rapidly to his companions. The translation computer caught fragments. Our first time, opinion, maybe, different. "I am, Delder. Keith," the leader finally said to Murphy. "You, say you, different. What, do, from, us." Murphy took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. "We want to be neighbors. To trade, to learn from each other, to help each other grow, but only if you want the same thing. Elder Keith's expression was unreadable, but Murphy could sense the weight of his consideration. Sky-people ... always ... Choice? Yes, Murphy replied without hesitation. If you want us to leave, we'll leave. If you want us to stay, we'll work together. If you want something else, we'll listen. The conversation continued for hours, with more natives joining the discussion. They called themselves the Flintari, and they had watched alien ships come and go for decades. The mining operations were automated, requiring no interaction with the natives. The Galactic Council's policy of non-interference had become a policy of non-acknowledgement. We ... Sky-people ... not ... U.S., Elder Keith explained. We ... important ... to ... star nations. You're important to us, Murphy replied. Every thinking being is important. The breakthrough came when the Flintari showed the humans their sacred sites, areas where the automated mining equipment had destroyed ancient monuments and burial grounds. The aliens had taken resources without regard for their cultural significance. We cannot ... Shiny ones, Elder Keith said sadly. They ... too ... dowerful. We ... and ... hope ... hope ... leave. Soon, Murphy felt anger building in her chest. The Council's benign neglect was anything but benign. What if we could stop them? You ... do this? If you wanted us to, Murphy replied, but it's your choice. The Flintari held a long discussion among themselves, their clicks and whistles growing more animated. Finally, Elder Keith turned back to the humans. We ... to's partnership, he said. But ... Chinese -ones ... this. Murphy smiled grimly. Let us worry about the shiny ones. The contact team returned to the Terra Nova with news that changed everything. The system wasn't uninhabited, it was being exploited. The difference was crucial, and it gave the humans both moral justification and legal grounds for their actions. Captain, Rodriguez opened a channel to the Zephyrian mining operations. This is Captain Rodriguez of the human colony ship Terra Nova. You are operating illegally in occupied territory. Cease all mining operations immediately. The response came quickly, transmitted on standard galactic frequencies. This is Commander Velthara of the Zephyrian Resource Consortium. You are in violation of Galactic Council territorial assignments. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Rodriguez looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were colonists, not soldiers, but they all understood what was at stake. Humanity's first test in the galaxy wouldn't be against empty space, it would be against the established order that had dismissed them. Commander Velthara, Rodriguez replied. The Council had their chance to talk. Now they get to watch us work. 20 Zephyrian ships appeared on the sensors, their energy signatures bright against the darkness of space. The Terra Nova was outnumbered, but Rodriguez had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. All hands to battle stations, he announced. Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens our friends. The Zephyrian fleet moved through space like living stars, their energy-based ships pulsing with contained power. Commander Velthara stood in the center of his flagship's command chamber, watching the primitive human vessel on his display with barely concealed disgust. The Terra Nova looked like a metal brick compared to the elegant curves of Zephyrian engineering. 20 ships against 1, his tactical officer reported. The humans should surrender immediately. They won't, Velthara replied, his energy form flickering with annoyance. These barbarians don't understand civilized warfare. We'll have to demonstrate our superiority. On the Terra Nova's bridge, Captain Rodriguez watched the enemy formation with calculating eyes. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful but predictable, moving in perfect formation like they were performing a parade demonstration. Lieutenant Carl Jackson hunched over his weapons console, his fingers dancing across the controls. They're closing to standard engagement range, Jackson reported. Energy signatures suggest plasma cannons and particle beam weapons. Let them come, Rodriguez said quietly. Beth, are our friends clear of the mining sites? Chief Engineer Murphy nodded from her station. The Flintari are in the shelters we built. They're safe. Good, all hands. This is the captain. We're about to make history. The galaxy thinks we're primitive, but they're about to learn that primitive doesn't mean stupid. The Zephyrian fleet reached optimal firing range and opened fire in perfect synchronization. Brilliant streams of energy lanced across space, striking the Terra Nova's shields with devastating force. The human ship shuddered under the impact, but its crude deflector screens held. Shields down to 60%, Murphy reported. But, holding steady, Commander Valthara frowned as his weapons had minimal effect. The human shields were primitive but effective, designed to absorb kinetic impact rather than deflect energy. Still, 20 ships should overwhelm any single vessel. Continue firing, he ordered. Focus all weapons on their power core. The second volley hit the Terra Nova even harder, but Rodriguez was already implementing his plan. Jackson, target their lead ship. Full spread, all tubes. Firing, Jackson replied, his voice tight with concentration. The Terra Nova's response was nothing like the elegant energy weapons of the Zephyrians. Instead, it launched a barrage of solid projectiles, tungsten rods, accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails, explosive missiles with chemical warheads, and kinetic interceptors designed to punch through armor, the Zephyrian fleets. Energy shields were sophisticated marvels of engineering, capable of deflecting plasma beams and particle streams with ease. They were not designed to stop solid matter traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The tungsten rods struck Valthara's flagship like the fist of an angry god. The energy shields flickered and died as the projectiles passed through them without resistance. The first rod punched through the ship's crystalline hull and out the other side, venting atmosphere into space. The second struck the power core, and the beautiful energy ship simply came apart. Impossible, Valthara managed to say before his ship exploded in a burst of contained starlight. The other Zephyrian vessels reacted with shock and confusion. Their sophisticated sensors had detected the human weapons launch, but they couldn't understand how primitive solid projectiles could penetrate their advanced defenses. 3 more ships fell to the Terra Nova's kinetic barrage before they could adapt. Scatter formation, the new Zephyrian commander ordered. Maintain distance and use our speed advantage? But the humans had anticipated this response. Jackson switched to guided missiles, each one equipped with simple chemical explosives that detonated on contact. The Zephyrian ships were fast and agile, but they couldn't outrun weapons that didn't need to maintain energy coherence over long distances. Their hulls are like eggshells, Jackson reported with grim satisfaction. Beautiful but fragile. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, 18 Zephyrian ships were drifting wrecks, their crews dead or dying in the vacuum of space. The remaining 2 vessels had fled toward the edge of the system, broadcasting emergency signals to the Galactic Council. Captain Rodriguez slumped in his command chair, exhausted by the intensity of the engagement. Around him, his crew worked to assess damage and tend to the wounded. The Terra Nova had taken significant damage, but it was still functional. Casualties? Rodriguez asked. 12 dead, 34 wounded, Murphy reported. But we're still operational. And the Flintari? Safe. They're asking if we won. Rodriguez managed a tired smile. Tell them we won. Tell them they don't have to hide anymore. The news of the Battle of Kepler 442 spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The emergency transmission from the surviving Zephyrian ships carried a message that chilled the Galactic Council. They fight like savages. They use solid matter as weapons. Our shields are useless against them. On Vexthara Prime, the Council convened an emergency session. The Menthri delegates pulsed with alarm, their crystalline forms flickering with agitation. The Orvani calculated probabilities with mechanical precision, while the Kethalani hive mind processed the implications of humanity's victory. This cannot be allowed to continue, High Arbiter Zixthel declared. If the humans are permitted to defeat Council forces, without consequence, it will encourage other species to challenge our authority. The Zephyrians underestimated them, the Orvani delegate observed. Their energy weapons were ineffective against kinetic projectiles. We must adapt our tactics. No, the Cathalani representative clicked. We must demonstrate overwhelming force. The humans defeated 20 ships with one. We will send 300. The decision was unanimous. The Galactic Enforcement Fleet would be assembled from 12 species, representing the combined military might of the Council. No single human colony ship could stand against such a force. Meanwhile, in human space, the victory at Kepler 442 had an electrifying effect. Colony ships that had been proceeding cautiously to their assigned systems suddenly changed course for more desirable targets. Reports flooded in of successful human colonization efforts in 17 systems that had been claimed by other species. Admiral Stone received the reports with growing excitement. Each successful colony was a nail in the coffin of the old galactic order. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving. The aliens built their civilization on the assumption that conflict was impossible, Stone told his staff. They've forgotten that sometimes you have to fight for what you believe in. The Battle of Kepler 442 had demonstrated that human weapons could defeat alien technology, but more importantly, it had shown that humans would fight for their allies. The Flintari had chosen partnership over subjugation, and humanity had honored that choice with blood and steel. As the Galactic Enforcement Fleet assembled at the edge of human space, Captain Rodriguez worked with Elder Keith to establish the first human-alien colony. The Flintari brought knowledge of their world and its resources, while the humans provided technology and protection. You kept promise, Elder Keith said through the translation computer. You for ... We fight for our friends. Rodriguez replied, and friends fight together. The old galactic order was crumbling, but the humans had only just begun to fight. The Galactic Enforcement Fleet assembled at the edge of human space like a constellation of deadly stars. 300 ships from 12 different species hung in formation, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire worlds. War Commander Thelvanus of the Cathalani stood in the command center of the fleet flagship, his compound eyes analyzing tactical displays with mechanical precision. The human colonies are more extensive than predicted, his intelligence officer reported. 47 confirmed settlements across 23 systems. They have been busy. Thelvanus clicked his mandibles in what passed for Cathalani amusement. Busy building targets. Begin with the New Harmony colony. We will make an example that the rest of the galaxy cannot ignore. 8 light-years away, General Kate Morrison received the warning from the outer sensor platforms. The former Marine had been chosen to command New Harmony's defenses because she understood something the aliens did not, sometimes. The best defense was making the enemy pay for every inch. 300 ships, she announced to her staff. 12 species, full battle configuration. They mean to end this here. The colony's population had swelled to 50,000 in the months since the Kepler victory. Humans from Earth, refugees from other systems, and even some alien species who had grown tired of the Council's rigid hierarchy. The underground shelters could protect the civilians, but the real defense lay in the weapons platforms Morrison had spent every waking hour constructing. Ma'am, we're receiving surrender demands, Communications Officer Tim Brooks reported. They want us to evacuate the colony and submit to Council authority, Morrison spat into the dirt. Tell them we're not going anywhere. This is our home now. The Enforcement Fleet's response was swift and overwhelming. Reality-warping missiles that could bend space itself, temporal displacement bombs that aged their targets to dust, quantum disruptors that unmade matter at the atomic level. The aliens deployed their most advanced weapons, confident that primitive humans could not withstand such technological superiority. The first wave of exotic weapons struck the colony's outer defenses and simply disappeared. Morrison had spent months studying the wreckage from Kepler 442, learning how alien technology functioned. The key insight was that advanced weapons required sophisticated infrastructure to maintain their exotic effects. "Cut the power," Morrison ordered. Across the colony, electromagnetic pulse generators activated simultaneously. The carefully maintained energy fields that sustained the alien weapons collapsed, reducing reality-warping missiles to inert metal and quantum disruptors to expensive scrap. The temporal bombs aged themselves into dust before they could reach their targets. "Impossible," Sylvanus hissed as his sensors reported complete weapon failure. "Deploy conventional forces. Plasma cannons and particle beams only," but the humans had prepared for this response as well. The asteroid belt surrounding New Harmony had been turned into a weapons factory, with automated systems churning out kinetic projectiles at an industrial pace. When the alien fleet moved to conventional weapons range, they found themselves flying into a storm of tungsten rods and explosive missiles. Dr. Pete Collins watched the battle from the colony's command center, his scientific mind fascinated by the tactical display. The aliens fought like they were performing in a military parade, with perfect formations and coordinated maneuvers. The humans fought like they were trying to survive. "They're not adapting fast enough," Collins observed. "Their command structure is too rigid. They can't improvise." Morrison nodded grimly. "They fight by the book." "We threw away the book a long time ago. The siege of New Harmony lasted 3 days. The enforcement fleet hammered the colony with everything they had, but the humans had turned their settlement into a fortress designed to withstand exactly this kind of assault. Every building was a bunker, every civilian was a potential soldier, and every piece of technology was built to keep working. When everything else failed, on the second day the aliens tried to land ground forces. The Orvani battlemechs were technological marvels, but they were designed for fighting other technological marvels. Against humans armed with rocket launchers and improvised explosives, they became expensive coffins. "Their infantry has no experience with real combat," Morrison reported to Admiral Stone. "They've been at peace so long they've forgotten how to fight dirty." The breakthrough came when human reinforcements arrived, not from Earth, but from 17 other human colonies. The scattered settlements had unified with shocking speed, sharing resources and coordinating their defenses. The aliens found themselves facing not one isolated colony but a network of allied worlds. Captain Rodriguez arrived with the Terra Nova and 12 other ships, including vessels crewed by Flintari allies who had learned human tactics. The alien fleet suddenly found itself outnumbered and outgunned by an enemy that had grown stronger during the siege. "This is impossible," Sylvanus transmitted to the Council. "The humans were supposed to be disorganized primitives. They are fighting like a unified civilization." The final assault came when the human fleet deployed their newest weapon, nuclear mines hidden in the debris field around New Harmony. When the enforcement fleet moved in for their final attack, they flew into a minefield that had been months in the making. The explosions lit up space like new stars. Ship after ship vanished in nuclear fire, their advanced hulls no match for the raw destructive power of fission weapons. The survivors found themselves facing fresh human ships, equipped with lessons learned from every previous battle. War Commander Sylvanus watched his fleet disintegrate around him. The Kithalani hive mind had calculated the odds of victory at 97%. They had not accounted for human adaptability, human unity, or human refusal to accept defeat. "All ships withdraw," he ordered. "Broadcast surrender on all frequencies." The transmission went out on every galactic channel, carried by automated beacons to every corner of civilization. The voice of the Kithalani commander was broken, defeated, and very much afraid. "This is War Commander Sylvanus of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet. We surrender to human forces. We underestimated not just their weapons, but their will. They do not fight like civilized beings. They fight like they mean it." The broadcast ended with a warning that would echo through the galaxy for generations. The humans are not what we thought. They are not primitive. They are not disorganized. They are not weak. They are what we used to be, before we forgot that some things are worth fighting for. General Morrison stood in the ruins of her command center, surrounded by the debris of the greatest battle in human history. The colony had survived, but more importantly, it had proven that humans could not only fight the galactic order, but defeat it. "Get me a channel to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them we won. Tell them the galaxy is ours for the taking." The age of human expansion was about to begin in earnest, and the aliens were finally beginning to understand what they had awakened. 6 months after the siege of New Harmony, the crystal spires of Vexthara Prime had lost their shine. The Galactic Council chambers, once a symbol of eternal stability, now buzzed with panic and desperate whispers. Reports flooded in daily of human colonies spreading across the galaxy like wildfire, with 200 systems now flying the blue flag of Earth. President Alex Carter stepped onto the same platform where Commander Sullivan had been humiliated less than a year ago. But this time he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from 67 species who had chosen to ally with humanity rather than the crumbling council. The Flintari Elder, now wearing a translation device of human design, took his place beside the Earth President. High Arbiter Zixthal's crystalline form flickered with barely contained rage. "The humans have violated every principle of galactic law. They have seized territory, destroyed council fleets, and corrupted the natural order that has maintained peace for 3 millennia. Peace for who?" Carter asked simply. "The Flintari. Lived under your ships for decades, mining their sacred sites, and you never once acknowledged they existed. You call that peace?" The Flintari Elder stepped forward, his translated words carrying across the chamber. "For 3,000 years, we watched the Sky People take what they wished and give nothing back. The Star Humans were the first to ask what we wanted. They are the first to deserve our answer." A ripple of discomfort passed through the assembled delegates. The Council had built its authority on the assumption that primitive species were irrelevant to galactic affairs. Now those same species were standing in the sacred chambers, demanding recognition. The Orvani delegate, its metallic form reflecting the chamber's light, spoke with mechanical precision. "Our economic projections show human space will represent 40% of galactic commerce within a decade. We cannot sanction our own future." "Traitors!" hissed the Zephyrian representative, his energy form pulsing with anger. "You abandon millennia of tradition for the promise of profit." "We abandon a dying system for one that works," the Orvani replied coldly. "Human colonies are more productive, more innovative, and more willing to trade fairly than the Council has ever been." Carter watched the debate with satisfaction. The old order was fracturing along predictable lines. Species that had grown wealthy under the Council's protection were beginning to realize that wealth meant nothing if the system collapsed around them. General Frank Hayes, now commanding the human Space Force, delivered the military assessment that everyone had been dreading. "Human colonies now span 300 systems. Our fleet numbers exceed 800 ships, with more launching every month. We're not just expanding, we're accelerating." The Cathalani representative, speaking through the harmonized voice of their hive mind, made the announcement that changed everything. "Our calculations project human dominance of the galaxy within 50 years. This is not conquest, this is evolution. The species that adapts survives. The species that clings to the past becomes extinct." "You're talking about the end of civilization?" Zixthal protested. "The chaos that will follow will give birth to something better," Carter interrupted. "The Council's idea of civilization is stagnation. Fixed borders, rigid hierarchies, and the assumption that change is dangerous. We represent growth, opportunity, and the belief that tomorrow can be better than today." The debate raged for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. One by one, species announced their intention to leave the Council and join the Human Alliance. The Menthri tried to maintain order, but order was exactly what the galaxy no longer wanted. The climax came when the Vraxani, the Council's most militaristic species, announced their decision. "We have fought the humans in 17 systems. We have lost in 17 systems. They do not fight for territory or resources. They fight for ideas. Ideas are harder to kill than ships." Admiral Rick Stone, now commanding a fleet that dwarfed The old enforcement fleet delivered the final ultimatum. The galaxy has room for everyone, but not for the old ways. Species that wish to join us in building something better are welcome. Those that insist on maintaining the status quo will find themselves increasingly irrelevant. The signing of the new Galactic Charter took place in the same chamber where humanity had been dismissed as primitive barbarians. The document established a new order based on cooperation rather than hierarchy, with humans as the dominant force but not the only voice. Elder Keith of the Flintari spoke the words that would be remembered. By history, the Sky People told us, we were too small to matter. The Star Humans showed us that everyone matters. This is the difference between the old galaxy and the new one. The transformation was rapid and complete. The Council's rigid territorial boundaries dissolved as species, began to colonize systems based on mutual agreement rather than ancient claims. Trade routes that had been stagnant for centuries suddenly burst with activity as human industrial capacity met alien innovation. Dr. Susan Blake, now serving as humanity's chief sinologist, established the first interspecies research centers. The combination of human adaptability and alien knowledge produced technological breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone, but perhaps the most important change was cultural. The galaxy's species began to remember what they had forgotten during the long peace: that struggle could create strength, that conflict could produce growth, and that the future belonged to those willing to fight for it. Commander Jake Sullivan, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood before the great crystal windows of the restructured council chambers. Below him, human ships ferried colonists to new worlds while alien vessels joined the great migration to the frontier. We came late to the party, Sullivan said to his aide, but we brought our own music. The galaxy was dancing to a new rhythm. Now, one that promised not the sterile peace of the old council, but the vibrant chaos of unlimited possibility. Humanity had arrived armed and unwanted, but they had become something more than conquerors. They had become the galaxy's future. The age of human expansion was just beginning, and the stars themselves seemed to burn brighter in anticipation of what was to come. The species that had been dismissed as primitive barbarians had become the architects of a new galactic civilization, one built on the radical idea that everyone deserved a chance to reach for the stars. In the end, that was humanity's greatest weapon, not their kinetic projectiles or their industrial capacity, but their absolute refusal to accept that things had to stay the way they were. The galaxy had needed someone to remind it that stagnation was not peace, that comfort was not security, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to seize it. The humans had arrived late, but they were right on time.